Have you ever felt like you're literally fighting your own brain? You sit down to do something important, but that itch, that pull to just check your phone or grab a snack, it feels relentless. Well, today we're going to dive into the dopamine detox, a really powerful concept from Thubo Maurice's book, and figure out how we can finally get our focus back. Seriously, if you feel like your ability to just concentrate has been smashed into a million tiny pieces, I get it, and you are definitely not alone. It kind of feels like that's the new normal in our crazy, hyper-stimulated world. But what if I told you there's a way to actually reset your brain's reward system? Okay, first things first, we have to clear up a huge misunderstanding about dopamine. We all love to call it the pleasure chemical, right? But it turns out its real job is way more interesting, and it's the absolute key to understanding why we get so easily distracted. So here's the big takeaway. Dopamine isn't about the pleasure you get from having something. It's the chemical that drives the pursuit of it. It's that craving, that anticipation, that little voice in your head that says, ooh, go get that. That's why you can think of it as the molecule of more. It always wants more.
And this, right here, is the trap. We get caught in this loop, chasing one little dopamine hit after another. The next notification, the next video, thinking this will be the one that finally satisfies us. But as Maurice points out, since dopamine is all about the chase, the cycle just leaves us feeling kind of empty, not fulfilled.
So, if our brains are just naturally wired to seek things out, what's the big deal? Well, the problem is our modern world. It has become an absolute master at exploiting this system. It feels like everything around us is designed to hijack that natural drive for more and just keep us hooked. I mean, does this list look a little too familiar? Those social media pings, the infinite scroll on video apps, the cravings for junk food. Every single one of these is perfectly engineered to trigger that dopamine loop. They keep promising a reward just around the corner, which keeps our brains in this constant state of wanting, making it almost impossible to look away.
And here's the real consequence of all this. When our brain gets used to this constant fire hose of easy stimulation, anything that actually requires deep focus or patience, like reading a book or working on a big project, it starts to feel impossibly boring. We basically lose our ability to tolerate boredom. And that, right there, is the root of so much modern procrastination.
So how in the world do we fight back against this? Maurice's solution is what he calls a dopamine detox. Now, the goal isn't to get rid of dopamine. That's impossible, and we wouldn't want to. The real goal is to just lower the volume on all the external stimulation so our brains can reset to a more natural, calm, and focused state. And the great thing about this is that it's not some extreme all-or-nothing deal. You can pick what works for you. A 48-hour detox, that's like a full system reboot. The 24-hour version is more like a quick tune-up. Or you could just start with a partial detox, where you target that one big distraction you know is a problem. Maybe it's just social media for a week. All right, you ready to get practical? The actual method for pulling this off is, believe it or not, beautifully simple. It really just boils down to a clear 3-step plan that anybody can follow to start taking back some of that control.
So here's the game plan. First, you've got to be honest with yourself and pinpoint your biggest attention hijackers. Second, and this one is so important, you make those bad habits just a little bit harder to do. We call this adding friction. And third, you change the whole tone of your day by starting it with something calm and low-key instead of a storm of notifications.
So, what does adding friction actually look like? Well, it's all about making your default choices the better choices. Instead of your phone being on your nightstand, you charge it in another room. Instead of that social media app being right there on your home screen, you bury it deep inside a folder. Every little barrier you put up gives your brain a split second to say, wait, do I really want to do this? It's amazing how these tiny changes can have such a huge impact. Okay, so you do the work, you go through a detox, you add some friction, you change up your morning routine. So what? What's the big payoff here? Well, it's about so much more than just getting more work done. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship with the work itself. And this is where the magic really happens. When you lower your brain's baseline for stimulation, those important, meaningful tasks that used to feel like climbing a mountain, they suddenly start to seem more interesting, more appealing. You don't need that massive dopamine hit just to get motivated anymore. You find that you can just start.
In the end, this whole entire process really comes down to one core idea. As Maurice says, self-awareness is the key. Just recognizing your own patterns, understanding what triggers you, and knowing what hijacks your attention, that is the absolute first and most important step to making any real, lasting change.
So, I'll leave you with a question to chew on. You don't have to go all in on a 48-hour detox tomorrow.
But what's one small thing you can do? What's the first distraction in your life that you're going to add just a tiny bit of friction to? Because that small step, that's where reclaiming your focus really begins.